Hello, happy Sunday, everybody. It is 2 o'clock here in New York. Gotta make sure you can all see me clearly and hear. So welcome, everybody. Just first things first, I want to thank you all for making time to join this session on a Sunday, especially because it's your weekend and you typically use this time to relax. Just to make sure that everyone can hear me clearly, can you please type in a 1 in the comment section or in the chat box? To me, it's actually on the right, so I'm thinking it's to the right for you as well, just to let me know that you are connected. Hi, Christopher. Thanks for joining. So great stuff. Everyone else can hear me. I see a couple of people connected right now, so I want to make sure that we get the best out of this live session. We got a full 45 minutes to get everyone's question answered in this call today. Hey, Gladys. Hi, Arthur. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Great stuff. All right. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the questions. So for those who are tuning in for the first time, the way these live sessions work. Good. Okay. All right. Apparently, there's some technical things that I don't really manage very well. Okay. Great stuff. Hola, Dulce. Hi. Welcome. All right. So first things first, for those who are actually joining the YouTube live for the first time, the way this typically goes is that I sent out a first email announcing the live on whatever day is scheduled, and I ask people to submit their questions beforehand. So typically, I start answering the questions that I receive in the email, and then once I'm done with those, I open up the floor to get everyone else's question answer as well as you enter them in the chat box. So first things first, I'm going to jump right in because I want to make the best out of the 45-minute session. So I've got one question for David, who sent me an email, and he was asking, is it possible to find a deal in New York City? I've been watching all your videos and I call a patch of land just to see what they can do for me, and it's all positive. I just don't know where to find a deal in New York City because houses are too expensive. So I think that's usually the common fear, the common questions that most of us who are trying to invest in real estate for the first time that we have, because we tend to focus on the houses that are actually in Zillow, or the nice houses that you see with a rent sign as you're driving along, and then all of a sudden you call in and ask, and the price is intimidating. So first things first, Oscar Lomel, I think it's Oscar. Hello, welcome. So back to the question, there are real estate deals pretty much everywhere you go. So whether it's New York City, whether it's LA, any major metropolitan city, or even small towns. I think it all depends on where exactly you need to go for and look. So the number one key that I always teach my students, for those who are actually part of the investment program, or even in some of my YouTube videos, the first thing that I teach is that, can you find someone who's actually motivated, right? You don't go to the first posting on Zillow whenever you visit the site and you go with the newest, because those properties had just hit the market. Therefore, it just means that they haven't received enough offers. The house hasn't been sitting in the market for that long, and therefore they're not desperate. In many of my YouTube videos, when I'm doing kind of like a screen recording and I show everybody to look for good deals, I always tell people to go to the latest posting. And by latest posting, I'm talking posting that I've been sitting in Zillow or Trulia, whatever website you want to look for. I'm talking about properties that have been sitting in there for 30 days, sometimes even 60 days, sometimes even 90 days. Those sellers are actually desperate. They're trying to get out of that property at this point because it's been 3 months. No one is putting an offer. So they are more willing to negotiate with you. And with that, the negotiations doesn't come down just to pricing, but at the same time, it can come down to ways to finance it, right? Can the seller work with you to make the deal happen, or maybe work on some sort of arrangement installments where you can have access to the property and do whatever amount of work and then pay the owner slowly until, you hit whatever amount of money that you have agreed with that house. So, definitely a good deal. Another trick that you can do to find good deals in the market, including New York City, it's a technique that people like to call driving for dollars. And basically, you just drive around the neighborhood and you look at house that has the grass all grown up and maybe some of the windows that are boarded up. So typically that translate to a property being either vacant or just nobody's residing there. And then you try to find who the owner is. What's the reason why that property it's vacant? Is it because this one person inherited and therefore they have nothing, they don't want to have anything to do with that property? Or is it just simply somebody died in the family and maybe there was a divorce and, the family, and therefore things are getting out of hand financially. The key here is that you as a real estate investor, you provide value to them. It's not just simply you coming in and snatching the house out of people or trying to get a good deal for yourself. And then, whatever, good luck, whatever happens to you. It has to be a win-win situation for everybody. Real estate has to be, a dynamic where everybody complements one another, right? So for example, let's just think about the whole dynamic that goes into real estate. So you are the real estate investor. There are banks, meaning a lender. There is an attorney. There is a contractor in the equation. There is the insurance broker. So that every single person has to complement one another. You as an investor, you're getting the benefit from that relationship with your lender because you're getting the fundings that you need to invest. And at the same time, that lender is making money off of you because they're making money in interest rate, right? So you can't just expect to get the money and give nothing in return. They are in the business of making money. Therefore, you have to give them what they're looking for. Same thing with a contractor. What is a contractor looking for? Business and also recommendations, right? So you have to give that in return. You are getting a good work. You give them business, right? You pay them the money that they deserve. At the same time, you send more business their way. Same thing with the mortgage insurance, right? They are providing you the best quote as possible, the most coverage as possible, depending on the type of insurance that you're looking for. But at the same time, you're sending them referrals their way because that way you're helping their business grow. So it has to be a win-win for everybody. And that's something that I actually cover in deep detail in one of my seminars. For those who are actually turning into my channel for the first time or tuning in for the live session for the first time, there is a seminar that I've created a couple of weeks ago that teaches brand new real estate investors to invest in real estate the efficient way, even if you don't have any fundings. And at the same time, it will also teach you how to invest and get enough money to continue expanding. So I'm going to ask my team to drop the link in the description because I don't remember it on the top of my head. So that way you can actually refer to the chat if you're actually joining late, so you can actually find the link. If not, it's actually going to be in the description box once this live is over and I'm actually posting the video online for those who didn't get the chance to watch the live today and decide to tune in at a later time. So hopefully, David, that answers your question. I'm going to move on to the next. So the next question came from Fabian. Fabian is actually also one of my students, and he is part of both the English and the Spanish program. So I'm not quite sure if he meant to ask this question in the Spanish group or in the English group. So I'm going to pull it up just in case for everyone's benefit. Let me just make sure I can find it here. So Fabian was actually asking, give me 1 second because I want to make sure. Okay, so can you explain more in details and with examples how to use business cards to buy properties, or it could be even personal credit cards to buy properties, because banks require at least 3 months to have the funds in your account, so that if 3 months go by and we still haven't found our property, that means we still have to be responsible for the minimum payments at the credit cards, even if it's at 0% interest, which is very truth. So let's say I don't know what the minimum payment is in order to know how much is it that I need to cover up. Okay, so let me just sum up the question again. So Fabian is actually asking, something that I talk about very commonly in my YouTube videos, which is the utilization of credit cards to buy real estate. So that's just the background. And in that background, the credit cards that I always recommend are two kinds, right? One, it has to be 0%, meaning you have an introductory period, call it 12 months, call it 18 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever timeline it is, you're going to have the opportunity to leverage those credit cards to invest in real estate and pay 0%. And then another criteria or a recommendation, I wouldn't call it a criteria, is that if possible, you should leverage business credit cards because they do not appear in your personal credit. So let's say, for example, if you have a business credit card of like $10,000 and you used up all of that $10,000, it's not going to impact your personal credit score because personal credit and business credit, they fall into a different bucket. So for those who are actually listening or hearing about something like that for the very first time, I'm also going to ask my team to please drop out the link in the description right here and also at the end of the video to a playlist that I created that talks only and exclusively all about credit, the utilization of credit for your real estate investment. So that way you can get all of those concepts clear in your head. So that's the background. And then the question that Fabian is asking is, one, how do you determine what the minimum payment is going to be? And then two, how do you even make the minimum payment if you haven't found that property? So that's his question. So first things first, how do you calculate the minimum payment? There is a video that talks about how to pay off your mortgage faster with credit cards. And the introduction of that video, I actually give you a quick recap of how you can actually take down or calculate the minimum payment of your credit card. And it's just an approximation. So I am in the process of creating a video that's going to teach you more in detail, but that's not going to be something that I can cover today because it's a video that needs to be visual. So therefore, I'm going to need to write stuff in the wall, and the settings for a live video, it's not going to cater to that. But in essence, just to give everyone a high level overview, you take the annual APR, let's say, for example, 24%, right? And then you divide that 24% by 12, which is 12 months. So that will give you 2%. So whatever amount you take down, right, you take that 2%. And then that's how you kind of get an estimation of what your minimum payment is going to be. If you're unsure, if you need to see a visual, just simply go into the video. I'm also going to ask my team to include the link down below so you can see. It's in the first, I think, 7 to 10 minutes of that video. That's going to give you a breakdown on how you're going to calculate that. So that's one. And then two, how are you going to be responsible for that minimum payment until you find the new property? You're going to have to leverage the same money that you took out. Usually the minimum payment, let's say, for example, if you take $10,000, the minimum payment, depending on your APR, even if it's 0%, they still use that APR, the annual percentage rate, to calculate or determine the minimum payment. For those who don't know what the annual percentage rate is, it's just simply the percentage that the credit card will charge you on an annual basis. That's how much in interest you're going to pay. So let's say, for example, if you took out $10,000 from your business credit card or even your personal credit card, the average of that minimum payment could range somewhere between 75 to 125. So that 75 or 125, I'm just giving you a range at the top of my head. You will have to take it out from the money that you have set aside. I think the overall what the bank is looking to see is that the money remains there, like the large sum of money. So if you took down 10,000 and you know, let's say, for example, you're going to need at least 6 months to identify or find the right property for you, then you just simply take out the equivalent of 6 months worth of payment. So rounding up the numbers, let's just say, for example, your minimum payment is $100 and you know that it's going to take you 6 months to get that. Then what you're going to do is just to simply, you take out 10,000 out of your credit cards. Then out of that 10,000, you're going to leave 9,400 in your savings. You're not going to touch that money. And then you're going to take the 600 and you're going to set it aside because you know that with those 600, you're going to pay every month $100 in order to keep building that credit, because it's really important. Do not let a month go by. Do not be late on the payments. Never, never, never do that, because you want to be able to evidence that you are responsible, that you are credit worthy, and that you are actually very good at what you do in terms of managing your money, because that's that's what's going to make you financially irresistible. So you have to do that in order to make things work. So that's in essence what Fabian's question is. I will actually repeat this question in the Spanish channel for those who want to join the Spanish group as well, and also practice your Spanish, or maybe if you're bilingual, maybe you have business partners that are actually Spanish speaker, and you want to make sure they actually invest with you exactly the same way you would like to invest by following my approaches. So you can, just join the other channel with them. Hi, Alejinka. It's been a while since I've seen you. I'm so happy to see you here. Okay, so sorry, I just haven't seen Alejinka in a long time. So I've been trying to reach out to him via email, but I guess he's been very busy. So good stuff that he's here today. All right, so that's in essence what it comes down to. Hopefully that answers the question. So that's all the questions that I got on the English channel. I did receive a lot in the Spanish one, but I'm going to honor everyone's presence here. I'm starting to see some questions flowing in. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for questions here in the chat. And please feel free, as I'm answering some of the other ones, feel free to drop a question right here. I'm here to help you guys out. I am here to answer all of your questions. It is best that you joined the YouTube live, because that's when you're going to get me on the spot. I've seen some people sending me out emails. I've seen people sometimes answering the comments. For the most part, I do get help with the questions that I receive in the comment section. So please leave those there. I utilize a lot of the comments to create episodes, because that's what's going to help me understand what is it that you guys are looking for. So please, 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 every time you're looking at a video, and if you do have questions, do not hesitate to write those down in there. I'm very diligent. I do go through all of my comments, because I want to make sure that I understand what the needs are, that what is it that you guys are looking for, to clarify, because my mission here is to provide value. My mission here with the channel is to educate. So any questions you have, please, please, please do not hesitate. Just drop them in the comment section. I'm here to help out. So let me just open up the floor. I have EG here. Hello. I have a question. How much mortgage can I own? I want to buy a property, but I'm already at another mortgage. So please help. Thank you. All right. So overall, it all depends on the mixture of questions. First of all, thank you for your question, EG. So the way it works is that there are two buckets of mortgages, right? So one is the residential and the other one is the commercial. So under the residential, you can have most 4 mortgages, right? That's the most that are gonna, the banks are gonna allow you to have. And of course, the more mortgages you have, the more risky you become. And it also on how much money you make. So it's they go by what they call the debt to income ratio. That's basically what the banks look at. So it's a ratio of how much debt you have in comparison to your earnings in a year. And how they verify those earnings, they typically ask for a copy of your tax return. So if you haven't gotten a mortgage and it's your first time, for those who don't know, every time you apply for a mortgage, the lenders are going to ask for a couple of things. One, your W-2, just to make sure that you are in fact making the amount of money that you claim that you're making. And number 2, your tax return, because they want to make sure that whatever amount of earnings that you have a year, it's in fact accurate. In terms of debt, that's what they have their FICO score. So that's why they pull your FICO score. They do a credit pull to see what's the percentage of that debt that you have. So they take that into consideration of how much money you own. And the lower the debt to income ratio, the higher is usually going to be the amount of money that they get to approve. But that's not the only criteria. They will base it on other criteria, such as your credit score. They need to see that you are actually responsible in managing your money. So depending on that, the bank is going to decide to either lend you up to 3 times your salary or 4 times your salary. So that's on a residential route. Now, there's the commercial route. There's the commercial package, the commercial type of mortgages that will require that you close under an LLC. On the residential mortgages, is only under your personal name. You will never be able to close a personal mortgage in your LLC. So when you're adding the commercials and the residential mortgages in the equation, you can have a good combination of about 10 mortgages, to say the least. So that's why it's very important that you use those smartly and you combine them in a much more effective way. So the thing with residential mortgages is that, yes, you are sort of somewhat limited by your personal income, but at the same time, you also get lower rates. With commercial mortgages, they have a minimum. That's why they say the rich gets richer, because if you go to a commercial bank and you say, oh, I need a loan for like $50,000, they're pretty much going to laugh off your face. They're going to say, no, like we don't do, this is too small for us. We need more money. We want more money. So in essence, their minimum requirements, some banks are more flexible. They can say 100,000. I've dealt with lenders where they say, no, the minimum that we are willing to loan you is $500,000. So you need to find a much bigger property than that. We're not going to go any lower than that, because that means it's not worthy of their time. It's not worthy of their effort. They're in business to make money. So hopefully that answers your question. That's in essence, in a nutshell. So 10 the most, but it has to be a healthy combination. If you're going only with residential, then it's a maximum of 4 last time I checked. But also keep in mind that these regulations, these rules are always changing depending on how the economy is doing, depending on what the Fed is saying that you should do, or how they decide to do, how to approach or how to best take care of the economy for the greater common good of everybody. So always stay on top of that. So David Matthew, I say, he said hi. Yes, David. Hi, David. Welcome. It's so nice to see you. So David actually left me a comment a couple of months ago. He shared some great news with me about his ability to be able to close on a property thanks to the knowledge that he's been learning in this channel. So definitely good news. It's definitely very rewarding. My team and I loved reading those comments, because it's kind of like a nice pat in the shoulder for us, because, hey, things are working. The channel is working out. Everyone is getting great value out of it. So welcome, David. And thank you so much for the support and for the great feedback that you've been giving us. EG, thanks for answering. Oh, Esmeralda. Hi, Esmeralda. Okay. So now I know, Esmeralda. I have Arthur here. Arthur is asking, I found a multi-family home that is listed for $65K. It will require some extra work to get it in good shape. I am trying to figure out how low I can offer the seller, especially if I like to pay cash. So my golden rule, and it depends on the area, you are going to have to first look at the comparables to see in the area, to see how much is it that the market is willing to pay for the property in good conditions, right? And by good conditions, because it all depends on the area that you're investing. Some areas do require the nice countertops, the nice kitchen cabinets, the fancy bathroom tile and stuff like that. So you have to see first, what is it that the area it's looking for? Because if it's a working class area, or maybe a lower income area, they typically do not need those kinds of fancy features, so to speak. They are content with having a good livable house where they can feel safe, where they can get sufficient heat, have a good night's sleep, and therefore they're happy. So you have to look into what is it that the market demands at that point in time, right? So that's one. Once you analyze that, once you see what is it that the market is looking for, then you're going to compare the prices. Okay, how much are the comparables? How much have the properties sold over the last couple of months or so? You can usually find that information in Zillow. They give you estimates, and they're, I would say, pretty accurate, just to give you a ballpark, so you can know, okay, what is it that it's out there? And then based on that, then you're going to see, okay, what is it that the seller is asking for? So if the usual market standards for a property like that is $70,000 and the seller is asking for 65, I'm not sure if that's going to be worthy of your time to actually go in and do a massive renovation. It could be worth it if you're doing a small renovation, maybe something that's cosmetic. Maybe you see the countertops, or maybe you see the kitchen cabinets and they are in good shape. Maybe the colors are a little dated, so maybe you can, do it yourself, take some of the cabinets down and look for a color that's more modern, maybe like a gray or a nice white that you can just put in there and modernize it a little bit. That will automatically or instantly increase the value of that property in and itself, and it doesn't really cost you much. Like a can of paint, it's like $25, and then you put your own labor. I mean, in this case, you are making the work, show, and the nice kitchen. But I mean, if all in all, what you put in is like an extra $1,000 out of your pocket, but you're getting a good 4,000 out of it, and it's good learning experience for you, then it's a great way to go. Now, if it needs more and you need to negotiate how low the price has to go, then you have to factor into, okay, what's not working in the property, what are the damages that are needed, and then you're going to have to factor those in and then remove that from the asking price. So if you have, let's say 65,000 is what you're listing here, and you have to, I don't know, at $10,000 worth of renovation. I'm talking about taking a wall down, maybe fixing plumbings, or maybe fixing other items in the ceiling, maybe termites and stuff like that. If this is your first time, you might not want to do something like that because things can get out of hand. Or it could be your first time, but then you should go in with someone who's actually a lot more experienced in the subject, and therefore you can complement one another, right? So this person has the experience, maybe even has the money, but you don't have any of that, but you're willing to work. You're thirst for knowledge. You are very hungry to make it work, and you're providing that labor that this person needs. So remember, it's always about making it a win-win. You have to help everybody. There was an episode not too long ago that I posted online to say, and the title went, how to best take advantage of your mentor, or something like that. I was actually a little disappointed to see that there weren't that many views, because that video, it's extremely important. And I created it mostly because I've been getting a lot of comments, a lot of emails of people asking me to sort of like be their mentor. And I'm honored that you guys are asking me to be your mentor, but there are other mentors out there in the field that is closer to you on a one-on-one basis that you can learn from, right? And rather than looking at things or like, oh, I'm giving this person free labor, it's not about giving you free labor. They are busy people. Your mentors are busy making money, and they saw value in you for a reason, right? Because you're thirsty or anything like that, and they're deciding to take time out of your busy schedule and help you out, but you have to make it worthy for them as well. And that means maybe doing quote unquote free work for them, but in reality, you're not doing free work. You're actually learning, you're picking on their brain, you're learning everything they know, that otherwise information that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten access to. So it has to be complementary from one another. So once you include those expenses, then you can start at a good ballpark. Usually what I do is that I do a 15% discount on the price. So let's say, for example, if the price is 65 and then you realize that it's $10,000 worth of negotiation, then you will try to factor a 15% discount in the offer, and then you start negotiating from there. But ultimately, it has to be a common agreement, a common consensus between the two parties. In this case, you, Arthur, and also the person who is trying to sell you that property. So a lot more goes into that. There's research that needs to go into that. It's not just simply, you know, I'll offer 15% less of the asking price and let that be the end of the story. Like, a lot more has to go into it. So hopefully that helped you out and in terms of your question. I see more people joining, more people asking questions. I just want to remind everybody that recently I created a online webinar, right? That teaches all of you who are either brand new or have been following me for a while. And the webinar actually shows you a great 10 steps that I actually leverage during my investing career. And therefore, I made it all available for you guys. It's meant to teach you how to start investing in real estate with no money down, and also give you the opportunity to learn how to expand, how to have enough, create enough funding so you can continue expanding in the long run. And it's free of charge. So feel free to sign up for it. You will need at least 2.5 hours to sit down and go through that whole training. And make sure you have a pen and paper, and make sure it's a working pen. I've received a lot of emails from people telling me that their ink had ran out in the middle of it, and they didn't think they were going to learn so much, and therefore they missed out on a lot of it, and they've asked for copies of the webinar. We do not provide those as company policy, but just make sure when you're joined, you have working paper and that you have the ability to take notes. And then at the end, you will receive an offer. And it will be up to you whether you want to take advantage of that offer and then just take the next step from there. But just make sure you take advantage while it's still live, when it's still in there. I'm going to ask my team to drop that link so you can sign up if you haven't done that already. And if you do, you already know how valuable the program is, the seminar is, and you learn a lot of information out of it. So I have Dorian here. Hi, Dory. Hello, I purchased a San Francisco home in 2016 with an FHA loan. I also got $26,000 investment in business funding through your recommendation of Fund and Grow. Yay, great stuff. Can I get investment property through your new EIN? So that EIN, I'm assuming, Dory, that it was actually provided to you by Fund and Grow. And if I'm not mistaken, that EIN, was it for sole proprietorship or is it for an LLC? If it's a sole proprietorship, I do not recommend you to use that for your real estate investment because it does not give you any sort of liability protection. Sole proprietorships are great for certain things, just like any other legal structure. That's why certain people have corporations, certain people have LLCs and stuff like that. In this case, if what Fund and Grow did for you was to create a sole proprietorship, then you definitely should not use that to invest in real estate because you're not going to get access or you're not going to receive the protection that you deserve. And yes, in your real estate investment. So Doris, you just confirmed that. If you're going to invest in real estate, you have to do it with an LLC and because that's what's going to give you the protection that you need in terms of any litigations and stuff like that. So the good thing is that you have an EIN, you have your sole proprietorship, just continue to leverage that to get more and more business credit to expand your portfolio. And that's good for that sense, right? Because it's helping you build that business credit. And you're going to have to build the business credit aside with an LLC. So whenever you're ready and you decide to set your LLC in place, you're going to receive another EIN number. So make sure you also nourish that. You also take care of that one LLC because over time, then you're going to get access to business credit on that one entity as well. So rather than depending on just one sole proprietorship for your business credit, now you have two buckets to choose from. So that's great. I actually created an episode not too long ago about LLCs and the power of business credit and how you can actually multiply that if you have multiple legal entities. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure you take a look at it. I'm also going to include the link in the description after this live call is over. And if my team can find that video, I'm going to have to ask my team to include that link here. If not, don't worry, you're going to receive that at the end. So that way you don't miss out on that valuable information. So Paulo, hello, welcome from California. Jack, the message was retracted, so I'm not sure. Arthur, thank you for your answering. Great. Olayinka, 100%, great stuff. Olayinka, the program is very helpful. I'm glad. Olayinka is actually one of my students. And the reason why I was so excited to see him here is because he's been MIA for a couple of weeks. So I was like wondering, okay, where did he go? But the fact that I'm seeing him here saying wonderful things, that means he's only been busy making deals happen and investing. So for those who want to reach out to Olayinka and connect, or if Olayinka is okay with it as well, because he has to be okay with it, take this as an opportunity to network with one another, because it's my channel is not just a simple channel that you can just tune in and learn. It's more than that. It's a one-stop shop for you to learn anything there is about financial literacy, using real estate as a vehicle to help you achieve that. But at the same time, I want to make this a safe haven. That's why respect is the number one thing in my channel, and I do not tolerate any foul language or anything like that. Those people get eliminated in my group and any of my sources, because people come here to learn, people come here to grow, and I want to do whatever it takes to make sure that continues to happen. So feel free, if Olayinka is okay, feel free to reach out. But Olayinka is one of my success stories. He's been on top of everything. So great to see you. I'm very glad to see you here. Jonathan Poller, I was discharged out of bankruptcy in September and I have a 1099 job. Can I still buy a house? Yes, of course, because a 1099, it's kind of like the equivalent of a W-2, but with the difference is that a 1099, you pay taxes after the fact. With a W-2, you pay taxes as you get paid. So every 15 or every month, depending on how often you actually get paid throughout the month, you pay taxes at that moment. A 1099 is nothing illegit, or it's not less official than a W-2. Is still a source of income. It's still something that the IRS is going to leverage in your tax return. The only difference is that you pay all of that in the end. So yes, you can still buy a house. You can still leverage that. That's, I mean, imagine self-employed, right? People who own their own business, they don't have a W-2 and they still manage to get mortgages. I think the key here is that you need to keep your accounting in check, that you need to be extremely organized. And I know that's the kind of administrative stuff that none of us would like to do. I myself don't enjoy that either, but it's a necessary evil. If you maintain your accounting well, you maintain your books in order, that's only going to show you, or show the lender in this case, a lot about your brand. This person knows what he or she is doing. This person is very well organized. Imagine if this person is like this with their books, imagine how good they're going to be with their payments. So it's all about the brand. It's all about making up what makes your name pop, right? If people hear your name, they say, oh yes, I definitely want to work this person. I'm pretty sure you've heard of names of certain people and you're just like, oh my God, I dread having to deal with this person. So let's not be that person. Let's just be the person that everybody wants to interact with. So that's it for Jonathan. Dory says, thank you. Great stuff. So we're at minute 34, hitting 35. That means we have 10 more minutes left for this live because I call it an end. So does anybody have any more additional questions for me while I take a sip of water? So please feel free to enter them in here, ask questions, ask away while I'm still online. Let's see, are there anybody else have any more questions? I see a Bache says, hey, hello. Anybody else have any more questions for me? We have 10 more minutes left in this live session call today. And once again, those who want to practice their Spanish, or if you have business partner who are Spanish speaker that you would like to get them on board with the learning, just feel free to tune into the Spanish channel. It's called NOVARISE Latino. It's the same NOVARISE, but then you just spell out Latino, Latin. In fact, I just realized I can actually write it here. So NOVARISE Latino for those who want to tune in and learn a little bit more Spanish. I get more questions coming in. So La Yinka saying, I met someone at work that is trying to unload his property next summer. So I'm preparing for it. Yay! Awesome. There you go. And you got that person before the property hit the market, I'm assuming. So it's perfect stuff. You're getting good price, close negotiations, no competition whatsoever. It's perfect. That's how you get the best deals. Daniel Montiel, how long does it take to build business credit? I will say on average, 3 to 6 months. I will say that, but you have to stay very on top of it. There is also a playlist that I created to teach you how to build business credit. I will make sure that playlist is included in here if my team hasn't entered that in the comments. If not, I will make sure I load that link in the description box after this video gets published in YouTube. So that way you can learn. But in essence, you will need a few components, right? Just to make sure that you get that going. You will need a legal entity, whether it's a sole proprietorship, whether it's an LLC. You're going to need an EIN, which you will get automatically once you create that legal entity. And you will also need a clean credit, your FICO score. Why is your FICO score important in this case, even though you're trying to build business credit? When a business is new, they need to have a person backing it up. That's why you have a manager. That's why you have an owner, because the business doesn't run in and itself. So when a business is brand new, it takes after the brand of the business owner, whoever created it, whoever opened up the LLC or whatever legal entity it is. So your brand becomes the business brand. Over time, as you're nurturing it, as you're building it, then that business credit starts standing out in and of itself. And then it becomes one thing in and of itself. And that's when you can start detaching yourself out of it. And in essence, it will normally take about 3 to 6 months, right? You open up your LLC, you get your EIN. Next thing you know, you go to the bank and you open up a business credit account, and not business credit account, business checking account or business savings account. And then you make sure that relationship, that account doesn't go on the negative balance, that you are nurturing it by sending it money that way. So that way you start building that relationship with the bank. And then within a period of 3 to 6 months, I will say, depending on your bank, some banks have different regulations. Each bank is its own legal entity. And it also depends on the size of the bank. Some banks are regulated by certain regulations. Some banks are not, because they make a certain amount of money to hire a certain amount of people. So that's why sometimes I get those questions online, and it's very difficult for me to answer answer that because you have to, physically go into the bank and check in with the bank, with the branch, to see what their criteria is. But typically, after you have built that relationship, you've opened up a business checking account with them. After 3 to 6 months, you can actually ask them to see if they can issue a business credit card, because you would like to build your business credit. And the way they will typically counter you, because you're still brand new, so they're not going to give you a business credit. What they're going to do is that they're going to give you the option to get a prepaid business credit card. So that means you're going to have to give in a deposit. It's usually at least $1,000. You give in a deposit and they'll give you 12 months to prove yourself. So in those 12 months, you're just simply going to go, you get your card, you deposit $1,000. That's outside of whatever you put into your business checking account. That $1,000 is solely for that credit card that you're trying to build up. And every month you will spend money just like it is with a regular credit card, and then you just pay it down. And then at the end of that 12-month period, you will get the option, if you have proven yourself to be a very responsible business owner, and if your business has proven to be sustainable as well, then the bank will give you the option. Okay, so now you can upgrade. Do you want to continue to keep this prepaid card, or do you want to just simply upgrade that to a regular business credit card? My recommendation is that you try to keep both, because if you close one credit card, that means you're reducing your credit history. So you're sort of like starting from zero, unless the prepaid card just simply becomes an upgrade and you can still keep that credit history. If you can still keep that credit history, then it's better to consolidate, because then you manage one card as opposed to having to manage two cards. But that's basically how you build. And depending on the bank, it can take somewhere between 3 to 6 months, sometimes even 9 months, depending on how complex the bank is. So EG, you're very, Esmeralda, I keep forgetting, you're very informative. Where can we find deals on home? What do you recommend? So I did create an episode a couple of months ago that talked about that. I'm going to make sure I leave the link down below. And I think earlier, I'm not sure what time you tune in, Esmeralda, but earlier I was talking about looking into Zillow and looking into the oldest posting, because typically the sellers are actually desperate. They are looking to sell their property because it's been sitting in the market for a long time. So if you sign in late, make sure you watch the beginning of this YouTube live after it goes on live in the Facebook wall. So make sure you check that out. The first 15 minutes, that's when I cover that. I want to get through all the questions because I see more coming in. So we're at minute 41. So let's see. Gladys Peralta, any recommendation on leveraging credit card checks? Oh, great stuff. Awesome question. So it's funny enough. I used to be completely against using the checks that come in the credit card, even if they're 0%. But I think things have changed. So that's why in one of my early videos in YouTube, I always talked about leveraging plastic or Venmo to get the money out of your credit cards, because you wanted to keep taking advantage of the 0%. So in the past, what happened before was that if you, let's say, for example, you have a business credit card at 0%, the only way that 0% will apply is if you use it for purchases. So that's why I got a little creative and I said, well, okay, if it can only be for services or products, then I'm going to leverage plastic, who is a service, and I'm also going to leverage Venmo, which is a service. For those who have no idea what I'm talking about, there's going to be a link that you can get to watch and learn all about it. But I think the banks and the credit card companies, they got very slick, they got smart. That's what I'm saying. Nothing is written in stone, nothing is set. And I guess they are feeling the competition. They are realizing that a lot of people are utilizing plastic, and they're also utilizing other services like Venmo, and they don't want to miss out on the market share. So what they're doing lately is that they are sending out checks to credit card holders and making sure that the credit card holders know that if you use those checks, the 0% still applies. I actually have a couple of credit cards that have been sitting there for quite a while. I use them for like minor expenses that I can actually pay down, but I have a very high limit. With one of them, I actually have a limit of $30,000 in that one card. And early this week, funny that you mentioned that, Gladys, I got a check, a couple of checks saying, we're going to give you an intro offer or promotional offer, if you use our check, you're going to have 0% to use and whatever amount you want to take out in this check at 0%. And you have until February 2021 to use it. So it's great stuff. If you get those checks, make sure you read the instructions. Make sure that it says, in fact, that it's 0%, that the 0% still applies. If it doesn't apply, then don't use it. But if it does apply, make sure you use it, because it will save you the 3% transfer fee that you will normally have to pay from Venmo or Plastic. So leverage those as well. And if you are unsure, always call the 1-800 number and speak to the operator and make sure that person confirms that, hey, if you use this check that you're getting in the mail, can it still be a 0%? Like, does the 0% offer applies? If it's yes, then utilize that. So thanks for the question, Gladys. Olayinka is saying yes. Okay, feel free to reach out to Olayinka. He's open to building business connection, people who are like-minded, who want to grow. So feel free to reach out. 2C2, hello. Any advice for someone selling a house owned with a relative? Is your relative not wanting to sell the house, or is it just not sure? I think the key here is negotiation and making sure that everyone is benefiting from the equation. So if your relative is okay with sending it, just make sure that whatever amount that you're getting out of the sale, it's divided, I wouldn't say equally, but divided based on the terms that are negotiating. It's just, I need more context around that. So it's very difficult for me to answer that question. I guess, like, when you're trying to sell the property, as long as everyone on board is fine. But I mean, I'm not sure, like, are you contemplating the idea of selling it, or is it someone who just simply doesn't want to sell it and you're trying to convince this person? So I guess it's just more that you need to provide in this case. So I'm going to move on, and we're hit minute 45, and I've got a couple of questions. So I'm going to answer up to Oscar Lomel. And that will be the last question, because I do have to get ready and jump on for my next call in the Spanish channel. So Jack, how do you buy a house out of state when you're sold your house and need to start all over in another state? You mean buying a property long distance, or just simply knowing what to look for? If you're moving to another state and you're unsure, I will typically not recommend you to buy any place, because you need to make sure that you're acclimated with that area, that it's a place that you like. So normally I will suggest people to do Airbnb, and just kind of like float around, just put your stuff in a storage room, make sure you don't have to carry it with all that baggage, and just move from one place to another, reside a couple of weeks here, reside a couple of weeks there, and see what the feel is like. Do you even like that area and stuff like that? But if not, then at least I know it's a little bit more inconvenient, but at the same time, you're saving yourself from having to put down thousands of dollars and tons of paperwork and a mortgage for a property that you might not like in the end. So if you're shopping around, you're not sure, I think the best way to go about it is just to do Airbnb. And for those who don't know what Airbnb is like, it's a short rental platform. And through Airbnb, you can actually rent out other people's homes and stay there for about a week or so. You can choose to share that living space with the homeowner, or you can just pick a place where it's solely just you, if you're not the kind that likes to share your living space with other people. There are all kinds of properties available for everybody and for all kinds of tastes. So make sure you check those out. Pablo Aleman, if I'm currently on family leave, can I still apply for real estate business entity? Of course. Alex Torres, hola Lucy. Okay, I'm going to try to translate here because I have mostly Spanish, English speakers here. So Alex Torres is saying, hi, Lucy. Thanks for your excellent videos and for your help. Can you make a video that explains examples how to repay credit cards? Okay, we'll make sure I will include that in my list of to record videos. So thanks for the suggestion. I'll make sure I do that. Pablo Aleman, if you're being sued personally, can they go after your business accounts financially? Well, I'm not an attorney, but Pablo, but oh, sorry, I need some water. So based on what my attorney has said, and I'm only repeating what he has said, typically, if it's a frivolous lawsuit, meaning people just out there looking for money in a simple way, they will either want to go after you or after your LLC, but they wouldn't have the financial capacity to go after both, because it's more money for them and it's more work for them. So people who are trying to get frivolous lawsuits happen. they're lazy people, like for lack of a better word. They just want whatever is easy. So if you're very well protected, if you have your legal entity set up, they're not going to try to pursue you. They're just going to move on to the easiest person to tackle. So to answer your question, it's either one of the other. According to my attorney, never been both. But again, you will have to check with a real estate attorney in your area, because everything changes depending on the state that you are. Whatever applies in New York, whatever applies in Alabama, let's say, for example, will not happen in your area, depending on what type of regulation, what type of rules, what type of laws apply. So a very clear example one of my mentors gave me was in some states, having a speeding ticket, it's considered a crime. Last time I checked, I don't think that's in New York, and that wouldn't deter someone from being qualified for a rental. But in other states, that could automatically disqualify you because you had a speeding ticket, or because you had a drunk driver, one of those tickets. I can't think of the top of my head right now. That will put you on the criminal list, right? Because, hey, you are putting on the lives at risk and stuff like that. So that's why it's very important. I always tell people to check with a local real estate attorney every time you're about to do a deal, because you have to make sure that whatever it's in your area applies. Like, I can only speak for the areas that I have done business with, but it's very difficult for me to know the rules, especially if they change all the time. I mean, just a couple of months ago, the Federal Reserve just announced that the rates are going up, and then now they're just keeping it steady. And next thing you know, you don't know if, the next quarter they're gonna lower it and stuff like that. So everything is changing. So always stay on top of the market conditions, stay on top of the news to see what is it that they announce. And Oscar Lomeldo charged 2.5% fee. I'm thinking you're referring to probably a Venmo or plastic. Yes, that is correct. They do charge that. But with the checks, I'm thinking your question probably has to do with Gladys' question about the checks. If you use the check, at least the ones that I've received, they're not going to charge you any fee. So make sure it's still 0% before you cash in those checks. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck with a really high interest. But definitely a great deal. And if you aren't sure, if you don't understand the terminologies that they're putting in the checks, just make sure you call somebody and the 1-800 number and have that clarified for you. So Jack Benny, acclimated, okay, but bank doesn't want to loan with a new job. That is true for the most part. If you're going for a residential mortgage, you will typically have to be in the job at least 6 months. But I mean, the good news is that you will take at least more than 6 months to find a good property, something that meets your needs. Like, it's not something that happens overnight, mainly because it has to meet your criteria. The seller has to be willing to agree on the price. So, 6 months is usually not so bad. So I think you should be able to do just fine. If not, then just, if you find a good area, just rent out, see what the feel is like, and then you can search on time. But don't go and find a property just to check for it for the sake of it, and then just get stuck with a mortgage. I mean, if you don't like it, if you're more like me, then you can always rent it out. Like, one of the good things about me is that I have no emotional attachment to my property. So it's very easy to just move on. If this place doesn't work, I'll just rent it out and move on to another. But that is not always the case for people. I mean, they are buying a home, so they have different ways to look at the property. Their vision is, okay, this is my home, so I'm settled here. I want to be settled here. So I think it all depends on your needs. So we are at minute 51. I would love to stay longer, but I really, truly need to prepare for my next live in the Spanish channel. So I will see you there. But if you have more questions, please feel free to drop comments and the videos that you watch. I do read all my comments. I rarely delegate my comments to someone else to review unless they're really piling up. But for the most part, I do carve out the time because I like to personally go to each and one of your comments. That's how I get to know each and one of you individually, and I know who's who, and it gives me ideas to create videos so that way I can better answer all of your questions. So happy Sunday. Thank you so much for making the time to be here. I love you all. Thank you so much for all the support. Actually, by I think December 28th or December 26th is going to be the official day where NOVARISE will be on air for exactly 1 year. So it's going to be our anniversary in a couple of weeks. So thank you so much for all the support. Vale, hello, mobile homes. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to get back to you in the next live. I'm actually wrapping up right here, but you're more than welcome to join the Spanish one, and I will make sure I answer your question. But in a nutshell, mobile homes are great investment, but they're just simply more management intensive. So if you want to invest in that, you have to make sure you have the right expertise to go in there. So that's it. I have to get ready. I will see you guys in the next live next year. Thank you so much for all of your support, and I'll see you then. Take care. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Bye-bye.